Stevenson, and this is a Big Ten football update. Let's look ahead to Week 10 in the Big Ten. First up, two teams that very much have a lot to lose and a lot to prove in Northwestern at Nebraska. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game, but in the end, I see Nebraska coming out with a win in this. It is home at Lincoln, and I feel like that Northwestern train is just going to slowly continue to go downhill, unfortunately, for Pat Fitzgerald and the Wildcats. Moving on, Minnesota and Indiana. This is at Indiana. Both teams are high-scoring offenses. Indiana is 3-4, Minnesota 6-2, and is riding a lot of momentum after wins against Northwestern, as well as beating who else did Nebraska last week? Yes, Nebraska. So this game, Minnesota going in 6-2, and I know Indiana really wants to salvage that record and turn it into a bowl season. So I see in Bloomington, Indiana, taking care of business against the Gophers. High scoring game as well, but Indiana prevails. Next up, a Big Ten matchup: Ohio State at Purdue. Coming off of the big win against Penn State, I think Ohio State's going to go in and win by at least 2-3 scores. I don't think it's going to be a huge rout like last week. I think they're going to ride a little bit of a hangover from the Penn State game. Maybe go in a little confident. They're still going to win the game, but it might be a 28-7 game or something similar to that. But favored, definitely, Ohio State. One of the noon games, Wisconsin and Iowa. This is going to be a big heavyweight matchup. You've got two Big Ten teams that love to run the ball, love to pound it up your throat, and are going to play great defenses. Very talented along the offensive and defensive lines. Both teams have 5 wins. And at the end of this one, it's in Iowa, but I see Wisconsin coming out. They're one of the more elite Big Ten teams, just a little bit above Iowa. They're very similar. But I see a low-scoring game where Wisconsin's defensive line ultimately wins the game for the Badgers. Next up, one of the other noon games, Illinois at Penn State. These are two teams, both not really doing all that well. Penn State's really not doing too well with a winning record of 4-3, and Illinois is 3-4. So not a lot of resume building wins, but I think this one's going to be a fun game to watch. I think you're looking at two teams that really have nothing to lose. And at the end of this one, it's in Penn State. I think Illinois is that crowd's gonna be a little too much, and Penn State's gonna come off with a win. And my Big Ten matchup of the week is Michigan at Michigan State. I think this is going to be a very passionate, physical game. This is one of the biggest rivalries in college football, and certainly within the Midwest. And I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, much like last year. I think the defenses are going to shine. But at the end of the day, I think we're not going to see the Devin Gardner of Akron or UConn or Penn State, the Penn State game. I think we're going to see the Devin Gardner of the Notre Dame game. The last time he was in a big rivalry game, he shined and he answered the call. And at Notre Dame, he was nearly perfect. So I see him, even though it is in East Lansing, having a great game and getting enough first downs, getting enough yards and big plays to let the Wolverines survive against Sparty. And I could very well see a 13-10 game, something like that, low scoring. But that is Week 10 for the Big Ten, and I'm Craig Stevenson. I hope you enjoyed a Big Ten college football update.